I saw a report over the weekend how in the first 9 practices of the Bucs training camp, Baker Mayfield has thrown 7 interceptions, which is, once again, I'm sure it's giving Bucs fans way more pause. And Kyle Trask, through, the reports from training camp, is having a pretty good training camp, which is, I don't know, second-round guy, second year in the NFL, and now you're going up against a previous first overall pick. But I want to bring up a soundbite here from one of Baker Mayfield's interviews where he talks about, his journey and how he got to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the pressure that he feels, coming from the Panthers and the Rams now onto the Bucs.
I've been off social for almost 2 years now, so I'm wired different. I don't need anybody on the outside to tell me what I can and can't do. Yeah, I mean, I got hurt in Cleveland. That's why my run ended there. And then last year it was, it was what it was in Carolina. But everything happens for a reason, so I'm here now, and I'm ready to go.
There's the Baker Mayfield I know and love. All right, so I want to know, who do you think should be the Bucs starting quarterback?
Well, he didn't say much about his Panthers stop there, but it was terrible. I mean, he played terrible there, right? They dropped him. He wound up with the Rams, where he did okay. Actually, the game that he came in, the first game, he was really quite exciting, and he managed to pull out a win for them, which was pretty cool in a way. Now, you have said in past shows that we've had that Baker Mayfield would never start again in the NFL, which turned out not to be true. He did start for the Rams, right? So my guess is he's going to be the starting quarterback for the Buccaneers on day one. I look at Kyle Trask. He's thrown 9 passes in his 2 years in the NFL, so he has no experience, right? He may be the player of the future, and I would say that if Baker Mayfield starts out like he did for the Panthers, then it's a short leash for him, and he won't be on the field very long, and they will go to Trask and see how he does. I do think the preseason, and particularly before you even get to a preseason game, as Baker Mayfield says, you're trying out different stuff, and interceptions are not that big a deal. But Todd Bowles said, well, turning the ball over is something the quarterbacks aren't supposed to do. Protecting the ball is the number one responsibility, and not turn it over. So that's certainly important to Todd Bowles. So how he views the two and the competition remains to be seen, but Baker Mayfield said he welcomes the competition. He's on, benching him wouldn't be that big a deal. He's on a 1-year, $4 million deal, so it's not like they've invested a ton of money in him. So we'll see what happens, but I think he'll be the starter.
I talked about this on Wednesday, and I decided to look up how bad Baker Mayfield did last year. And by the way, he just sort of threw away that Panthers thing like it didn't even happen. The Panthers were supposed to be...
Obviously wants to do that, right?
Yeah. No, well, first of all, he acknowledged how he got hurt with the Browns, and that's why, he got thrown away by the Browns. And, they looked at Deshaun Watson instead of keeping him. Do we remember how Baker Mayfield got hurt? That lingering injury, the torn labrum that bothered him throughout the rest of the year? It was he tried to tackle one of the Texans' defensive backs on an interception with his shoulder in week 2 in their home opener. He caused his own injury. And that's why he had that lingering labrum injury. He didn't do surgery until very, very late in the year, where he was taken out for the rest of the year. But then they looked at Deshaun Watson and moved off of Baker Mayfield. And then the NFL set it up beautifully. It was Baker Mayfield, the revenge game against the Browns in week 1. And we all know how that game ended. Cade York shot a field goal through the uprights. Baker Mayfield lost game 1. And honestly, he probably should have won that game. And that sort of started a bad streak of Baker Mayfield and how poor he would play. He didn't look very good in that game. The fourth quarter was more impressive than the other 3. But throughout that season, especially with the Panthers, it did not look so hot. So last season, I had this graphic up on Wednesday, but I don't have it anymore. But I'll read it to you here. So out of 33 qualified quarterbacks, Baker Mayfield was 29th in pass yards, 31st in touchdowns, 32nd in completion percentage, on-target percentage was 30th, and his QBR scale 0 to 100 ESPN stat was dead last. AKA, he was a bottom 3 quarterback in basically all of these stats. He was god-awful. So to throw away the Panthers season, it's actually a pretty important season because it kind of showed teams, yeah, you really don't have much in you, especially with a team that doesn't have a tremendous offensive line, that had a really good defense, that at one point had a pretty good wide receiver core with OBJ and Jarvis Landry. And you also had a decent tight end in David Njoku. So Baker Mayfield was not good. And that's why a team like the Rams with Matt Stafford out got desperate. And that's why a Bucs team without Tom Brady got desperate. And that's why you have a starting job. Because if it wasn't for injuries, you wouldn't have started that game with the Rams. And truth be told, honestly, you really wouldn't have a job, at least even have a chance to have a starting job, if Tom Brady was still in the NFL and if Matt Stafford wasn't hurt. You would have been dropped by the Panthers and no team would have picked you up unless there was injury concerns like the 49ers had. That's why they had 4 quarterbacks on their roster. So to say that, to throw away the Panthers game, that is what it is. And the fact that we're hearing Kyle Trask is having a really good training camp and Baker Mayfield's having interception issues, how is that not giving Buccaneers fans pause? And if a first overall pick like Baker Mayfield loses his job to Kyle Trask, who has not even really sniffed any NFL action, I think Baker Mayfield should at least consider some form of retirement. Some form of retirement. Because if the Bucs without Tom Brady are not going to even, use you, and Kyle Trask is a better quarterback than you, what image does that send to other teams that may need a quarterback?
Well,
you're not good enough to beat out Kyle Trask?
I don't think Baker Mayfield's going to retire. He's not that old, right? How old is he? 27
He's 27. He's turning 28.
28 years old. He hasn't made the kind of money that some of the other big quarterbacks have made, right? And he's only making $4 million this year. So if anybody wants him and they're willing to pay, his meal ticket, then I think he'll probably play.
Well, he did the Progressive commercials. He was immediately start of his career. He was in those Progressive commercials.
I think he lost focus by doing some of that
stuff. I guarantee you he did.
Yeah,
he started to get that big ego, and even in college he had a big ego.
Yeah.
So what I would say is, you know what? If Kyle Trask beats you, seriously consider retirement. Because let's go down. Any team that needs a quarterback. Washington, they seem content with Sam Howell, and Ron Rivera said we may even see Jacoby Brissett instead of Sam Howell. The door's open there. The Raiders, Jimmy G's good to go. Now, Jimmy G had a horrible start. We talk about 7 interceptions in 9 practices. He started off 7 interceptions in 2 practices. Not great for Jimmy G in the start of that. Kyler Murray, my guess would be they're probably going to be one of the worst teams in the NFL. They may go out and get Caleb Williams. And also, if I'm not mistaken, the Bucs have a win-loss, an over-under win total of 6.5. So if the Bucs, Baker Mayfield said in a more recent interview how they're being doubted, right? You do realize you're the starting quarterback. This team went from having like 11 to 12 wins, over-under win total, to plummeting to half of that because they don't have a quarterback. And what's surprising is when they got Baker Mayfield, I saw an article where it said this offense will actually be better with Baker Mayfield than they had with Tom Brady. Because Tom Brady was more of a restricted quarterback and a pocket passer, not someone like Baker Mayfield who may have legs to him.
That's crazy.
I thought that was ridiculous.
That's ridiculous.
Baker Mayfield had more batted balls than anyone in the NFL, and he didn't have a starting job like halfway through the year. And he ended up getting past, about 3/4 through the season. But he held the batted ball streak of being the top of the NFL for a long, long time. So I really think, I don't know. Here's the thing. It should be Baker Mayfield. It should be. He's been a starter in the NFL. He's won a playoff game. He was the first overall pick. And if Kyle Trask, so he should be the starter. The fact that the OC of the Bucs said the quarterback competition is tightening with a second round pick that, my guess would be they didn't have a lot of faith in him, so that's why they got Baker Mayfield instead of, keeping Blaine Gabbert or picking up, any Marcus Mariota, any one of those quarterbacks.
Is Marcus Mariota signed by anybody?
No.
Nobody signed him at all.
The Falcons have Desmond Ridder. They're satisfied with that. We just saw Teddy Bridgewater get picked up as a backup quarterback for the Lions. There's really not a lot of teams that need a quarterback. Really, it would just be a depth piece. But would you really have that type? It's sort of like the Cam Newton thing. That type of personality as a backup quarterback, it just wouldn't work well. That's why you had Brian Hoyer or Jared Stidham instead of
I would have thought Marcus
Cam
Mariota was better than Brian Hoyer, right? As a backup.
He's
younger.
Clearly not. Brian Hoyer instead of Marcus Mariota? Hoyer's old. Hoyer.
No, I don't. Hoyer is old. That's what I'm saying. Marcus Mariota is younger than him.
Okay, gotcha. So, I mean,
Who's he back? Who's Hoyer with? He's with
Jimmy G. He's with the Raiders, yeah.
With the Raiders, yeah.
it's the Las Vegas Patriots.
Probably not paying him much.
Of course not. He's a backup quarterback.
$1 million?
I mean, he's still getting jobs. He's still getting paid millions of dollars to not play a single game.
I don't think it's millions.
Well, over his career, he's made millions.
Yeah, over his career, but this year, I bet he's not making much.
Well, I mean, he's a 35-year-old backup.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
He's got in the NFL in 2009.
He got in the game. We got in the game last year, and third play, he got a concussion. He was out the rest of the season.
Yeah, no, it was pretty bad. But hey, I'm saying right now, the Baker Mayfield, his job security. I mean, really, the fact that it's close, apparently.
They're saying that, Nate. I mean, maybe it is close.
The OC is saying, not reporters are saying it based on visuals. The OC who's drawing up plays, who's calling plays, who's making these plays for the quarterback.
Well, maybe Kyle Trask is the second coming of Tom Brady.
I
doubt it.
I highly doubt that. Yeah. So I mean, it's not report. It's not Rick Stroud of the Tampa Bay Times saying it. No.
When was he drafted? What round? Kyle Trask.
Second
round. So must have been pretty good in college, right, to get a second round pick.
Just because he's drafted in the second round, I mean, we've seen fourth round picks be we just saw Brock Purdy as Mr. Irrelevant be supposedly the next coming of Tom Brady and Kurt Warner.
Yeah.
So I mean, by the way, in college he wasn't terrible. His last year in college was actually pretty good. He went for 4,300 yards, 43 touchdowns, 8 picks with a 68% completion percentage. Not bad.
Good.
Not bad at all. Just, in the NFL, he wasn't so good that they had a lot of faith in him to be the next, to be that next step from Tom Brady and flow right into it. They got rid of Blaine Gabbert. So, what's the next option? Let's go out and get Baker Mayfield.
What happened to Blaine Gabbert? Where did he wind up?
They dropped him. They felt like honestly.
Where did he go somewhere? Did he wind up with anybody?
No. I mean, he's, let's say. No, I don't think he's on a single team. No.
Huh. That's something.
What do you mean? A lot of these backup quarterbacks don't get jobs. They're not good.
Yeah. Well, Blaine Gabbert sat and watched Tom Brady play for 3 years.
So did Kyle Trask.
Yeah.
And Kyle Trask was supposedly going to be the heir apparent to the next great Buccaneers quarterback. At least that's what I'm sure people thought when they drafted him in the second round. Just turned out not to be the case. So, I think Baker Mayfield's job, I don't know. You got to watch out for it. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, if you want to check out the full episode, make sure you click the I in the top right-hand corner right now. If you want to listen to this show anywhere you go, make sure you go to anchor.fm/The Harvey Hour or anywhere you get your podcasts.